Hi, welcome back to the global overview of the Machine Ultimate Pro mappings for the Machine Mark 1 and the Machine Mark 2 controllers. So you can buy it and download it, and after you install it, you can complete control traktor for live situations in a club or on a festival. And today I will show you the most features of these two controllers because there are some difference, and with the support of two cameras today I hope I can give you the best overview for these two mappings. Okay, first we start under pages over here in the displays on the Mark 1 and the Mark 2, and for this I got my small iPhone as one camera, and I will try to go through the pages. Okay, we start on page 1. It's the mixer in the mapping, so you get the control for deck A and deck C on this side. You can select if you want the volume for deck A or for deck C, the bass or the mid frequencies or the high frequencies. You can start the effect bank, and if you want to cue, you have to cue always on this side. On the other side you get deck B and D and the same effects on the cue and the volume for deck B and D. So you can mix between two decks at the same time, and the same on the Mark II controller. You see it's the same over here. Only difference here are you get some kind of digital faders in the display, and on this side only the MIDI value. Okay, next page will be global hot cue. So when you load up a track, you will see on the 8 buttons over here and the 8 buttons over here, you see, okay, when you select page 2, there's a hot cue function. And you see in this function too on the Machine Mark II, key adjustments and filter adjustments, and the same as here. So when you turn up filter A, you see in the software it will start the filter on the deck A, deck C, deck D, deck B, and the same is for the keys. So probably you see Y is the key for A on the right. So when this is on right and you're right-handed like me, you can turn up the key and press at the same time your cue points. So you have a kind of tonal play with some cue points over here. And the same on the Mark II controller. It's some kind of a sub-functions, because when you load on the decks track, the hot cues will show up here. So we go over here to the browser function, and you see when I press a browser on this one and turn the encoder, I'll take the intro for example, go to deck A, press on this the loading, go to deck A, and you see on the Mark II controller we get now all 8 hot cues. You see in the right color for a loading cue point, normal cue point, and fade in and fade out markers, and the loop. And sorry, but on the Mark I controller you only see, okay, I get 8 hot cues. So maybe you can see it here on this one. All are filled up and over here all fill up too. Maybe I switch to another, take a different track, for example this one, and load it up. You see now, okay, we only get over here 4 hot cues, normal fade in, normal hot cues. So on the 1, 2, 3, nothing, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like you see it on the machine. When we go down here, it's very small, but you see, okay, it's on the right place. And over here, hotkey 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 6 is load up. So you can play 2 different cue points. For example, you saw it on the machine Mark II. You have down here the deck focus selector for deck A, B, C, and D, and the same on the controller over here on the Mark I. So deck A, B, C, and D. So, and over here in the group selection you have deck A, B, C, D, sequencer A, sequencer B, sequencer D, C, sorry, and sequencer D. It's the same over here, but without colors. So when you select A, B, C, you see it, okay, and down below there is always the sequencer. So in the top row we get the deck functions or the remix deck functions, and below that there's always the functions for the sequencer. So you can, for example, select deck B and we load into deck B, but this time we use the Mark I controller, so because there's a difference. So when we press the browse button, our selector will be the swing button. So when I go up and down here, we take now the Mr. Spliff, yeah, on this. And now you have always to select this one. Okay, we want to select deck B. And for loading, it's the sampling button. Okay, so we load it into deck B, close the browser, and in the software, yeah, Mr. Spliff is in the right deck. So you can now see the cue points for deck A, on these, and over here, the cue points for deck B. So for example, maybe I try to get some action over here so you can see it better. Okay, this is the deck B cue point 6, and on deck A we take cue point 1. So you can see you can juggle around with these 2 kinds of cue points. I think it's very important that you have the possibility to control 2 decks on the same time. Okay, but we go on to the next page, and I take my finger cam, for example, and we switch now to page number 3. And now you'll see page number 3 is global or loop global. You see now the row on the top is for dedicated loop lengths. For example, you get 1 beat loop, 2 beat loop, 4 beat, 8, 6, and 32. And it's the same on the Mark II controller. The only difference is when you want the machine Mark I set loop length, you can do it like this encoder over here. It's the right one, and you can move the loop with the second. So for example, you set up a 4-bar loop wheel now in deck B, and when I change the knob you see and the traktor window we move around. And on the Mark II controller, when you hit the enter button, you are in the loop mode. So your encoder is by rotating the loop length, and with T2s down here you can go up or down in the track with the selected loop length. Maybe you like it. So you have one looping function on the Mark I controller and two looping functions on the Mark II. Yeah, okay. So the next page, because we see here, or you see here, we get the pattern length for deck A, deck B, deck C, and deck D. It's the same over here. So when you are in a sequencer mode, traktor will always start in 8 beats pattern length. So you can see here, okay, which kind of length is selected, and you get feedback always from traktor. So when I turn the knobs on the machine 2, you always see it. On the other controller, maybe you get the same setup like me, 2 machines for example, or you get a different controller like in F1 by Native Instruments. So when you set an input there, you always get the output over here. Okay, but later more about this. We go now to page 4. This is deck A, and you see, okay, we get the filter on off for the slots and the filter value. The same is here. We got the mute buttons for the slots and the volume for the slots. Maybe we do it like this. And yeah, when you, for example, we choose a remix deck and load it into deck, stem track, and we load it into deck A, you see now, okay, 5 cue points, and on the Mark II, the color for the cue points, you see now a white one. The white color is for the grid button, and the same is over here, it's for the looping and the normal cue points. So, but now you can say, okay, I want only to activate the bass or drum layer. So we start by pressing or selecting deck A and the transport section down here. And you see, okay, we got restart, step forward, step backward, and the grid button. So grid means, okay, sync the selected deck over here, press play, and this is for the control of the deck. And the restart, record, and erase is for the loop recorder. So there's an extra tutorial for the loop recorder functions. So when you want to remix live on stage, you can use like this. So with this button you will start and stop the loop recorder, the play mode, and you will record with this button, and with this you erase your recording. The volume for the loop recorder is here, and the same over here on the Mark II. Okay, you get a green one here, and color feedback on the record button, erase. So it's the same over here, and the volume for the loop recorder is over here. Okay, but now we try to kill some sounds. Okay, we started over here. And now you can hear, okay, we killed almost everything over here. So when you switch, or do it on the mute buttons, and you can do it on the Mark II, and you see it over here, the feedback. Yeah, maybe you see when the deck is playing in internal mode, you get these colored extra functions. And it's here the same, but not in color. So what does this mean? So we kill the mute, so we can press play. And we see it on the Mark II, for example. I hope we will get, yeah, okay. Okay, what does it mean? You see over here, you get some extra transport functions. For example, is seeking forward into the track. You see it now in deck A, and seeking backwards. And D2s are beat jump forward half beat. So when we start over here, yeah, you can see you can beat juggle with this. The next four colored buttons down here. Come on. Okay, you can see it's the same color like this one. So what could it be? It's very easy. Okay, when you're in deck A, you can copy deck A to deck B, C, and D. When you're in deck B, you can copy it to deck A, to deck C, deck D, and on this deck C is the same. So I hope you get the idea of that. So now we play in deck A, and for example, I want this track into deck B, so I'm on deck A, and we copy. So you saw it, you can copy or duplicate your deck into the other decks. So you see you get all the same functions for all four decks. So you can select, okay, between a remix deck, a stem deck, a normal track deck, or a sequencer mode down here. So you get a lot of functions on only one controller. And the good thing about this, when you press play, you now see extra functions. So when you load the track, you always see, okay, hey man, I got, for example, in this 5 hot cues, and you'll see instantaneously, okay, which one is which kind of hot cue. The same, but not in color over here. So when I press here play, sorry, not the restart, the play button, you see it came up, the color. Maybe it's a good choice to make something like me over here, some extra stickers, and if you're wondering, these 4 from A to D is for starting the sequencer. So we go to the next page for deck A, and this is the sequencer part. So what you see now here is we get the page selection. For example, you want to go from remix deck page 1 to page 4. You always get the volume per slot over here, and these are the slot selector for the sequencer. And when you select or will select a deck, sorry, not a deck, a sound, you see you can do it like this. And this is the same on the other controller. I forget over here the start and stop button. So we load now a remix or sequencer deck into deck A. load it up, and you see now, okay, we get over here, when I press all pages, you see always when all lights are up in the color of your selected deck, you see now we are in deck A, it's red, and it's here red too. It's a bit tricky on the old controller. You're on deck A and you see, okay, there is, for example, all pages fill up. So I will show it with the not so. Maybe I have to go to the browser again. So when you're in browser mode, there's a trick on this one. You can switch between your favorite playlists. These two controllers. At the moment on the Mark 1 there's no function like this. Maybe I added or you added to the tempo button. So if you want this feature in the future, so let me know. Okay, and now we select more empty one. Machine. Oh, we take this one. Okay. Very important, it's only load at the moment into the stop deck in my setup. Okay, you see now we get the Roland 808 sequencer kit, which you can buy on my studio site too. And you see now, okay, there are some empty cells and the same over here. So when I switch to page 2, you see, okay, there is no slot. So reactivate the mute levels, switch to the next page, page 1. And you see on the Mark II controller, the selected sound is in white. When you switch between loops and you get a longer quantization of more than 1 beat, you see it over here, it will turn into orange to change or show you that the cell is waiting for the next step and to switch to the white one. It's a bit tricky over here. You see when you play sound, it's like in Maschine, the normal Maschine software. You see, okay, when it's blinking, you are on the right way. So now we start the sequencer to see the difference between deck Mark 1 and Mark 2. So I will change my position. Okay, what have you to do to give some funky stuff or sounds over here? First you go to the sequencer tab. You see down below we are now in sequencer mode, and you see, okay, it's only running to the 10 beat. So first of all you have to change the pattern length to 16 beats, and you see now, okay, it's running from 1 to 16, and we go back to slot A. So now we here on slot A, we switch over here to the Mark II controller. You see white is running, and we set a 4 to the floor, so and now you have to start the sequencer. Maybe I stop it again. So over here on the Mark II, start sequencer 1, start sequencer 2, A, B, C and D. And over here you see my labels, sequence A, B, C, and D. Okay, now for example I show some tricks during its running. Okay, so less talking, more showing. We start the sequencer and switch between some slots. Yeah, okay, you see the most on the part 1, part 2 you see it's the same, and now you see when this is running you can always switch between the step sequencer, so I have to go down there. So you can switch during the running, for example here. And you see when the sequence is running, you get blinking lights over here, and you see here, okay, there's always the white one on the selected buttons. So now you can switch between the sounds. You can do it like you press a normal the sound on the pads, or you take the dials over here. For example, I show it again. Yeah, okay, so maybe we select back to the sequencer. And the sequence mode is still in, so you can switch between sounds, but your sequence is always in. Yeah, okay, I hope you get an idea, because it's very complex. Okay, the next step is the same, but it's for deck B, so I don't have to go through the whole process again. Difference here, okay, you get a color green, C is color yellow, and blue is for deck D. So they get the same functions over there. So we go now back to the mixer part, and we are now page 1, mixer page 1. So we go now to the effects section. You see here, okay, FX for deck A on. Okay, when I press it, you see it over here in Traktor. The routing is activated and we now in the group mode. What does it mean? You see now here there's no FX controls on both controllers. So how to manage this? For example, you're now in a mixer mode and you're mixing between deck A and deck D. It's a good starting point. And we take a track into deck A. We take this one. Leave the browse button, set on the Mark II controller a small loop. Press enter, start the play mode. And you see, when I press this, nothing has happened. So, for example, you playing now this sound live, and you can set up on the page behind this. This is for FX Bank 1 and 2. It's page 13. So when I switch forward, I'm in the mixer mode, page 1, backwards, FX page 1 and 2, and on the page before that is FX 3 and 4. So you get very close to the mixer section or effect section. And in the mixer mode, it's like you're pressing on the Pioneer Pioneer mixers, the effects bank, or starting the effects bank, so you can decide, okay, turn up some effects, try wet level, and play the loop again, and start this effect selection. Yeah, you hear it. So when you stop the effect, it's off. So we play it again. Yeah, and it's the same on the other decks. Yeah, so when you switch to deck C, it's for deck C, the effects on and the Q. And your effects over here, you see we get effects button 1 on, off, effects button 1, 1. So this is over here. For example, when we change from group mode to single mode, it's, you see I can now activate the single effect and functions down here by the on-off buttons and the selection over here on the encoders, dry wet level. So you see it works on both controllers at the same time, on the same encoders. And you can switch between single and group mode. In group mode, you will lose the global effects bank on for the single effect. But it's not so a problem. Okay, so maybe you want to change the directions of the pages or the ranking of the pages. So it's very easy. You only have to go to the controller editor and per drag and drop you can change, for example, the mixer to page 9 or whatever, or deck A to the first place. So it depends on your setup. Maybe you only want to use deck C and D. You can change, for example, from now deck A is on page 4, and you see when we go to deck B, deck C, deck D, it's on page 10. So in the controller editor you can do it by drag and drop, but later there will be a tutorial for this too. If you still got a question about this, leave a comment or send me a private message here on YouTube. You see it's very complex. You get a lot of functions. You can always mix between two decks, and you can use, for example, the mastering section or the master section. Before I forget it, you see on the Mark II and on the Mark I we get two different master sections. You saw it for the browsing mode. We get over here. The swing is for selecting a track. When you not have activated the browser functions, this knob or encoder will stay still for the swing for your selected remix deck or sequencer. So when you get a sequencer, for example, we go back to our sequencer and we select A, set a slot. It's a good starting point is, we take this one. Okay, we have to change the sequence and fill this hi-hat up. So deck A, sequencer mode, you see it here. We are now in slot A. So, and I will play this sequence and turn up the swing button. It's on the Mark I, it's the swing, and on the Mark II you have to select swing and turn the encoder. So I do it on both. Yeah, I hope you could hear it, but it's very good function, so you can add some funk or some swing to this again. And the next one is the tempo button. Maybe you will know it. It's for the master clock global tempo, and the same function is on the Mark II controller. So you got here the tempo button, but still more features. For example, when we change to the global master clock over here, you see, okay, we can now, when it's a master mode, so turn it to the master. Now you see, oh, my stickers come off, so bye-bye. You can change the tempo, the global tempo on the global encoder, and over here it's the same. And For all faders or rotaries, there's always a soft takeover. It's very important. So, for example, when you're in mixing mode, you don't have to be afraid when you mix between deck A and B, or sorry, deck A and C. So when you switch the selector to deck C, that you crank up the volume or boost too much. So you have always a soft takeover, and it's the same for all other faders and encoders. So it's for the swing, for the tempo, and for volume. And volume is the next one. This is the global loudness for traktor output. So you see, you get it always without a modifier over here. And over here you have to always to press or select the global volume. So it's very sensitive, but you will never crank up the volume too much. You see, we stop now on 0 dBs, so it's in safe mode. So you have to rotate and rotate to boost it more than 0 dBs. Okay. Here you see, you will never end up with blown up speakers or something like this. You have always soft takeover and soft control. You have always see where you are and what you're doing. For example, you see it here, deck A is red. When I load it, for example, the same to deck B and browse node, yeah, deck C, yeah, deck D. Close the browser. You always see on which part of the deck you are now, and you will never lose your feeling for the right deck. So you see always where I am, which function does what mean. You see, play is play. It's very logical and very easy. Some people map your the play or sequence buttons or whatever. For example, the looping functions over here and the play button over there. So you always have to think, okay, where is my fucking play button? So now when you select the right deck, you see it's playing. It's not playing. Deck C is not playing, deck D is not playing. So when play on deck D and deck C is playing, and you see deck A is playing. So you never lose your groove. Yeah, and the same, maybe I show it here for the loop, sorry, for volume. Now in deck C, for example, I will bring up deck C and I'm on deck A. You see now I'm up to the maximum. Go to deck C and very soft response. So you can always mix fast and do very fast cuts. You see here on deck B, when I turn it up and down, it's very responsive. So I don't have to be afraid. Yeah. But for today, this will it be. So if you get still a question before you want to buy this mapping, again, send me a private message or follow me on Facebook or subscribe to my YouTube channel to get more information about the Ultimate Pro mappings for Mark 1 and the Mark 2 controller. My name is Frank Bash, and if you want, you can go to my webpage, frankbash.com, or to my studio page, and you will find all links in the description to download or buy some free stuff. And next time it will be Christmas, and there will be some sales action for the Christmas time. So I say goodbye and see you next time, and have fun with these extreme mappings. Bye bye.